article comes out about the Carolina Panthers and the offense in particular. Quote, sources close to Bryce Young say that the offense changed 3 times, allegedly. Now, of course, my co-host feels the need to text me, and then I have to respond, whatever. I'm going to let you open it up because I'll say what I have to say till y'all go.
I mean, do you not think that's nasty work?
Yes, it's disgusting.
Like 3 times.
Was that in reference to last year? Just for clarification.
Yes, last year.
That was in reference to last
year. In 1 year, the offensive playbook changed 3 times under a rookie quarterback.
Yes, that is correct. That is what the article said. That's what the article said.
There's not really much to say, but that's very nasty work. You don't set anyone up for success by changing the offense 3 times, let alone that it's a rookie quarterback. But if you put any other quarterback in that situation, like changing the offense 3 times, that's terrible.
But I feel like we already knew that, though, right? Because it went from Frank Wright to the OC back to Frank Wright, right?
Right, which I will say was like, it was a story, but it wasn't to me as I've sat back and thought about it more, just because of, like he just said, we already knew that Frank Reich wanted control. We knew that Thomas Brown was calling the plays during training camp. We knew that it was a conversation going into the season who would be calling the plays. It ended up being Frank Reich. Niggas was on Frank Reich's top. He gives it to Thomas Brown for, 3 weeks?
He called it at Jets game, I know for sure.
Yes.
I believe it was about 3 weeks.
It was like 3 weeks that he had control. And I think one of those weeks was the Miami game. Because if y'all remember, we went crazy. That Miami game, we started crazy. Now, I don't know if power had shifted back to Frank Reich at that time, but I believe that it was with Thomas Brown that he called that game as well. And then it went back to Frank Reich. But what I will say, just to add context and just to give a little of an opinion, I mean, it is nasty work. It is nasty work. And like I've been saying, I've been saying this for the duration of training camp, the duration of summer. I've been saying it pre-summer because I had to come on here a little bit and shoot Bryce a little bit of bail just because, as I look back and watch some of the episodes and things like that, I was unfair at times. I was unfair as it pertains to Bryce Young and his performance because when you look at the weapons around him, they weren't winning routes. That's number one. You look at the offensive line, one of the worst in NFL history. And then when this kind of story comes out, it's just like, there really was no winning for Bryce Young. There was no winning for Bryce Young in that offense. There was no winning for this offense as a whole because there was never a time where there was any cohesion. There was never a time where there was any stability. There was never a time where there was any consistency. So when you look at all of those things taken into account, then yes, you have to. Even if you are a Bryce hater, like I would say probably up until about 2.5, 3 months that I would say that I was leading the hate train for Bryce Young. Right. Once we got out of season, we took our little break. I was still slandering his name.
You was doing more
a
than
bit.
leading it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll wear that. Like, I'll wear that. If niggas ever want to put that on my body, I'm going to take it and I'm going to wear it. Because, I don't have no choice. It's on video.
Can I just ask a question, though? Because while you were going on this, a question popped into my head. So, you coming to this realization, right, that you can't put it all on Bryce and, like, the situation that Bryce was thrusted into, would you say that that was a situation that none of the quarterbacks from last year's class would have thrived in, or do you still think C.J. Stroud would have had a better showing than Bryce?
I don't know. I think that's an unfair question. I think it's an unfair question because
why? Because last year you would have died on the hill that C.J. Stroud would have been a better fit in the Carolina offense.
I think that C.J. Stroud was an overall better prospect. I don't think that. I mean, for me personally, I still don't believe that changes. Now, do I believe that C.J. Stroud would have did what he did in Houston, in Carolina? Absolutely not, because I think that as time goes on and you look back and you continue to watch film and do those things, I mean, you'd be a dumbass to say that would be the case, and which at times I'm sure I was saying that at that point, just out of pure emotion. But like I said, when you're out of that moment and you look back at really what was going on, and then you have stories like, you got coaches in the locker room snitching to the owner, and there's no cohesion on that front. And then you have a story come out with, they changed the offense 3 times because it just simply wouldn't work. When you look at, like, when you look at it holistically, there's no way realistically that you can really answer that question. But I do believe, like I said, I still will die on the hill that I believe C.J. Stroud overall is a better prospect. But I'm not gonna continue to slander and slaughter and crucify Bryce Young for what we saw last year. Now, if things don't change this year, I think that's a completely different conversation. Because Bryce Young in his press conference today said, look, this offense is built for me, obviously paraphrasing. But he said, I have a lot more freedom in this offense. This offense is built for me. It seems like the offense is kind of honed around what my strengths are. So we have a different conversation right now if Bryce Young doesn't produce and perform in this offense with Dave Canales as his head coach.
So him saying that, would you say it was reflected in training camp?
Yes. At times I would definitely say that because I've said multiple times during training camp on Move the Chains that there were a couple of practices that Bryce Young had looked the best I ever seen him look in a Panthers uniform, with the exception of the Green Bay game. Mm-hmm. I said that a couple times. Now, when you guys came, it was hard to gauge that, and I think that I even went on like a 10 or 15-minute soliloquy about what my position was on Bryce, and it wasn't necessarily hate that as much. It was just like it seemed as though he just doesn't have that it to lead a group of men. However, I will say as training camp continued on, it seemed like that changed in my opinion. It seems like there's buy-in. It seems like that cohesion that we talked about from the end of March all the way through, the beginning of July when we were talking about just the front office and everybody being on the same page. It's not only the front office and the head and the coaching staff, it's also the players right now from what I've seen when I was at training camp. So for me, my perspective on a lot of things have changed in training camp, and I do believe that Bryce Young is I think he will take a significant jump this year. I think, like, that Tuesday before the Jets came in, the week prior to the Jets coming in, the way he did that defense, I'm telling y'all, bro, like, I think I text you, I text Dunk, I text everybody that would listen. I was like, yo, I don't know what reports you going to see today, but hear it from me. That nigga today, I don't know how he going to look going forward about nothing else, but I know today he went apeshit, and that was the best I ever seen him look. And then he came out against the Jets during joint practice with their defense won, shredded their ass too. So I'm hard pressed to feel like there won't be a significant jump from Bryce Young. That's how I feel right now at this very moment.